Hi! In my previous Alien Shooters video, there might have been a slight lack of actual aliens involved. This one has aliens, I promise. We have so many aliens that they're coming in from the doors, the windows, and even from the sink if you're unlucky. We have 3 or 5, depending on how you choose to count, games on the table. The Phobia series, Crimsonland, and Shadowgrounds. There are a few things that bring our games together. Firstly, they're very obviously about blasting aliens. Secondly, they're all from a top-down perspective. Thirdly, and this is hard to put into words, but there's something special about these games. Perhaps it's the fact that they're all released within a 10-year period, and that brings with it a sort of style. Yes, they're all very, very Finnish. Let's go take a look, shall we?
Terminate all aliens.
Alien Phobia is a game made by WA Software in 1997 for DOS. It's a straightforward arena shooter where you mow down endless hordes of aliens for as long as you can. There's very little lore or story to go on. The game, henceforth referred to as Phobia 1, introduces the basic formula for all Phobia games. You operate in a fairly constrained play area, usually a single screen, as more and more aliens home in on your position from the edges. You use the arrow keys to move and enter to fire. Interestingly, you can't move backward, only forward. Not one step back, trooper. You're armed with your trusty machine gun with an infinite supply of bullets. Another trait of the Phobia games is that you never fire forward. You always fire diagonally left. This feels weird at first, but it starts to feel surprisingly natural really quickly. Bonus pickups periodically appear at the arena. For Phobia 1, these are the flamethrower and the medkit. The flamethrower fires in a short-ranged cone and allows you to conveniently wipe out large clumps of aliens as long as you have fuel. The medkit restores a bit of your health, but not all of it, thus keeping the player on their toes. The game has a few basic sound effects, including a surprisingly disturbing death scream, and no music. Now, back in the 80s and 90s, when bulletin board systems were still a common way to share games, you usually wanted to include a small file called fileid.diz in your game package. Connection speeds were quite limited, so these files acted as a sort of business card that allowed users to figure out what they were about to download. Curiously, the file ID for Alien Phobia mentions fighting against 400 aliens. Why mention that number specifically? Well, I decided to set that number as my goal to reach. It turns out that I was able to reach that number quite quickly. However, Phobia 1 also introduces us to the fact that all of the games in the series are poorly optimized for modern systems, lacking any internal timers. The game performance dropped noticeably past 400 on-screen aliens, so maybe that was a realistic high-end number. I could have probably reached higher numbers, but it started to feel like a chore to constantly keep adjusting the DOSBox CPU cycles in order to keep the game running at least somewhat smoothly. As the game goes on, the danger is that once you have enough aliens on screen, they start to stack on top of each other, as I don't think there's any collision detection going on there. That means that accidentally grazing a big enough stack translates into instant death. Phobia 1 serves as the first taste and a basic template for the greater heights of arena shooter goodness that we're about to reach. Alien Phobia 2, commonly known as just Phobia 2, was created by the same developers a year after Phobia 1, primarily for Windows 95 and 98. The general idea and many other aspects are basically the same. You're trapped in a single-screen arena, which will soon start to fill with aliens. Your task is to hold out for as long as you can. There's still not much of a story here, beyond that you're some kind of trooper and your job is to blast aliens, who will eventually eat you. Some of the improvements that will immediately jump out here are the improved graphics and the inclusion of music. You can adjust the graphics somewhat, but the changes here seem almost arbitrary. The game does give you a better control of various settings, and also includes a 2-player mode. Gameplay-wise, you can find flamethrower and medkit pickups similarly to the previous game. In addition to those, you can find explosive bullets and grenade launcher pickups as well. The grenade launcher fires explosive projectiles that split multiple times, and you can quite handily clear the entire screen with that weapon. Thanks to these better weapon pickups and better optimization, which we'll get to in a bit, it's possible to reach much higher kill numbers than in Phobia 1. After I noticed some people in YouTube comments of old Phobia 2 videos mentioning kill counts of over 4,000, I decided to set that as my goal, making it nicely 10 times that of Phobia 1. The thing is, there's a bit of a technical hurdle in the way. Apparently a version of Phobia 2 that worked on modern systems was once available, but the file hosting site ulos.to changed its services and removed public file sharing, wiping out all old user uploads with the fixed version among them. You see, without that kind of fix, the game's engine problems become readily apparent. I could generally get around 150 kills before the game crashed. After some digging around, it became apparent that the game's memory buckets started overflowing, and it started trying to render new aliens at coordinates in the negative hundreds of millions. What I ended up trying out next was several kinds of graphics wrappers, such as DG Voodoo 2 and DX Wrapper. After 2 whole days of investigation, detective work and trying things out, what finally worked was a program called DXWND, which offered me the most granular customization options. With the help of Gemini, I came up with a guide to get Phobia 2 working on modern systems, should you wish to give it a try. I'll leave a link for that in the description. Oh, and after the engine fix, I managed to reach my goal after a few tries. Boom. With Phobia 3, we start to move away from the pure arena shooter format and into something else. So before that, I want to talk about one more arena shooter. Crimsonland, made by 10 Tons Entertainment, was originally released as a freeware/demo version for Windows somewhere around 2003, and a shareware version soon followed, published by Reflexive Entertainment, nowadays referred to as Classic. The game also had a self-published digital re-release in 2014, henceforth referred to as Modern, with updated graphics, perks, guns, enemies and game modes. Both games also feature certain unlockables, which I won't be going through here. The game is an arena shooter, but you're no longer confined to a single screen like in Phobias 1 and 2. The arenas in Crimsonland aren't particularly large, but big enough to necessitate scrolling. The standard Crimsonland experience via survival mode isn't all that different from the basic Phobia formula. You roam around the arena, picking up different weapons and power-ups, while aliens slowly approach you from all sides. There are also other game modes available, such as Quests, Rush and Type O Shooter. Phobias 1 and 2 only had one alien type, whereas Crimsonland has several different types that come in different sizes and colors, which I assume means that they have varying stats such as health, speed and damage. There are also special enemies such as nests, splitters and shooters. The biggest difference here is the inclusion of perks. When you mow down enough aliens to gain a level, you get to select a perk. These give you different kinds of advantages, some remaining in effect for the rest of the run, and some being one-off benefits. You could say that this game was the Vampire Survivors before Vampire Survivors, minus the auto-aim. Oh, right, you actually have mouse aim in Crimsonland. Otherwise the controls are similar to the Phobias. There are around 25 different guns, 56 perks, and 12 power-ups available in Classic, with Modern having even more of both. It's hard to fully express how massive this increase in options is compared to the Phobia series. At first, I set my goal at 4,000 kills, thinking that it would be more or less achievable as the game had a much bigger selection of guns and a steadily increasing power level due to perks. However, what I didn't take into account was that the enemies scaled in difficulty the longer the match went on. I soon found out that it was incredibly difficult to get past 2,000 kills. When I was looking at my best 2 runs in Classic, I became aware of the fact that my best run had more score and less kills than my second best run. That made kills not really all that useful in measuring progress, so I switched my goal to simply be getting the biggest score I could. It seems that in order to reach those really big numbers, you pretty much have to get really lucky with your perks. Those perks in turn should be more or less entirely focused around power-ups and or scaling damage increases like poison and or uranium bullets. In other words, the game becomes less about shooting aliens and more about hunting power-ups, because the aliens are so ridiculously fast and tanky that they're mandatory for your survival. Remember when I said that Crimsonland was initially released as freeware? That is the version I remember playing back in the day. I remember survival mode scrolling horizontally instead of vertically, and I think you could slow down time by pressing the right mouse button. I found a demo version online, but it wasn't the same version I played way back when. I wish I could find that one. Well, actually, thanks to the Resurrecting Crimsonland project by Banteg, published in February of this year, I finally found a version I remember playing. It was the early freeware version 1.0.2. The version is fully available to download from the project website. I'll leave a link for that in the description. Thank you to Banteg for proving that I wasn't just making things up. Crimsonland is widely available at storefronts like GOG and Steam. It's actually really good. Probably even better if you can get some friends together and play a hot seat survival match. If it comes on sale, this is an easy recommend from me. We're gonna watch the Phobia 3 opening animation. If you can't understand what the hell is going on, turn on the subtitles for my best guess transcription.
What really happened, we should not ask. What matters is a new home, the colony. Something that we cannot believe happened. Those strange monsters from our childhood nightmares. When we are sleeping, we do not want to dream. Less of us will charge more of them. Lovely embrace the death with revenge.
Alright, let's get this out of the way. Phobia 3, otherwise known as Phobia 3, Edge of Humanity, was created by WA Software in 2002 for Windows and Linux. Before I say anything else, I could not get the game working on full screen. For some reason, it works in windowed mode by passing the correct parameter for the game executable, which is in line with the technical difficulties plaguing the rest of the series. The graphical fidelity has remained more or less the same as in Phobia 2, but there are now some cool animations present. Here's the one for dying. Here's another one for winning. Pretty cool, right? They're completely unskippable. The biggest difference between Phobia 3 and its predecessors is that it's no longer just an arena shooter. It's an arena shooter with a campaign mode that tells the story of a desperate attempt to colonize an extremely hostile planet. Now, I say campaign mode, but it's more of a linear sequence of 6 levels, and you can skip a level once you hit enough kills or honor points. It's still an arena shooter at heart, but this time the levels are big enough to have scrolling. I wasn't too interested in this format, honestly. I just want to get thrown into an arena and get swarmed by aliens, like in the other phobias. That's my kind of thing. Having this mission-based approach kinda makes it feel like it was a different type of game, even if all you do is gun down aliens. Speaking of guns, you basically have the same guns as in Phobia 2, plus sentry turrets and airstrikes. The missions usually have some kind of gimmick that you need to rely on to beat them. The first level, for example, has you defending a fortified location all on your own, and there won't be any extra weapon pickups. Your basic machine gun won't be enough to fight the huge waves of enemies, so you need to use the gun turrets along the wall to your advantage. As it's a mission-based game, I obviously set my goal to finishing them all. Personally, I only made it as far as mission 5, and look, let's talk about a few things that I really don't like about Phobia 3. Firstly, the ammo counter doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't decrease on a shot-for-shot basis. I never have a clear idea of how much ammo I have left. A fully loaded flamer is 4 pips. That doesn't tell me anything. Either give me a clear number or some sort of bar. It isn't that hard. The previous phobias didn't have this issue. Secondly, and this was a problem in the other phobias as well, but everything is this brownish grey color. Once the alien corpses start piling up, the landscape transforms into this mush of swirling color, and it becomes increasingly difficult to see what's going on. It might be easier for you to pick things up. You're watching a stretched out game screen that I fixed in editing. I had to stare at a tiny window for my partial playthrough. Thirdly, and this is by far the worst issue, some levels have terrain in them that blocks your movement. It's destructible, so that you can theoretically blast it all away, but the alien corpses I mentioned earlier can hide the actual terrain. You might be desperately trying to run away from the horde when boom, you're now suddenly stuck and dead in seconds. This is further compounded by the fact that the terrain doesn't get destroyed cleanly when you try and shoot it away with your machine gun, so you get these stray pixels left behind, which are not only invisible among the alien corpses, but also nearly impossible to blast away, and they will completely block your movement just as surely as a solid wall. Oh, did I mention that some of the bigger bugs become terrain as they die, making the problem worse and worse? Yeah, I absolutely hate this feature, and combined with the visibility issues, I just couldn't get past mission 5. I set myself the goal of 40,000 kills. If I couldn't complete the mission by that count, I wouldn't bother continuing. Newsflash, I didn't. Maybe you can. You can find the entire Phobia series for free on abandonware sites, if you'd like to try them out. I wanna recommend the first 2 Phobias, but getting them to run properly can be a bit of a chore. This is your gentle reminder not to waste your money on expensive, subpar AAA games. They're not worth it. If you wanna play a shitty game, go play Phobia 3 instead. It'll be just as bad, but you didn't have to pay a single cent for it. Shadowgrounds was made by Frozen Byte and published by Meridian 4 in 2005. If Phobia 3 is a linear sequence of levels with a story tying them together, then Shadowgrounds is the exact same thing. However, Shadowgrounds stops being an arena shooter. It's a story-focused affair that starts to lean heavily into cutscenes, dialogue sequences, and discoverable notes to flesh out the narrative. The levels are also much larger and you have to achieve a specific set of goals to beat them, rather than just gunning down a certain number of aliens. Don't worry though, you still get to gun down plenty of aliens. In Shadowgrounds, you take on the role of senior IGTO mechanic Wesley Tyler.
Yeah, Wesley Tyler. Just a senior mechanic nowadays.
Mr. Caucasian Standard himself, with a voice as close to being AI generated as it humanly can be.
Going in there. Alone, right? Installed the power source and the flight access software. Now what? Don't you die on me! Damn!
As a brief aside, most portraits blink. Some don't. That bothers me a little.
Ha! Nothing can break this door! It's reinforced titanium, baby!
None of the actual in-game models do. They all had that distant 1,000-yard stare going on. I can't really blame them though. They've seen some stuff, man. As there's no real point to counting kills in Shadowgrounds, the goal here is obviously to complete the story, as that's the only game mode available. To sum it up, there's a human colony on Ganymede. Aliens appear. Chaos ensues. There are 10 levels in total that take you to various locations around Ganymede. Since the story is such a big deal, I'm gonna go over it in a little more detail. So this is your spoiler warning in case you're sensitive to those regarding this 21-year-old game. To avoid them, go to here. Alright, so, abbreviated story time. The game starts with Tyler on a maintenance run to fix a few backup generators. He loses contact with the rest of his team, and he's soon ambushed by a few Gribbly boys. Not long after, he starts coming across bodies, a gun, and larger, more dangerous aliens. It's clear that alien shenanigans are afoot. He teams up with
Corporal Jane Arwin, IGTO Marine Corps.
at the water treatment facility to fight off a giant sewer creature before heading off to Weather Station 5, which is actually an illegal military compound. From there, they're ordered to proceed to a comms facility to signal to Provectus, a large carrier-class ship, to come to their aid. Next, they head off to the main colony of New Atlantis, only to find it mostly wrecked. They come across
Dr. Weiss, hello!
a scruffy scientist guy, who tells them that the Provectus has been unceremoniously shut down. Tyler and crew head off to investigate the crash site and rescue army guy Roger Smith.
Let's nuke those bastards!
For some reason, Tyler is sent to the mines to retrieve reinforcements. Once again, he arrives too late and everybody is already dead.
Don't you die on me! Damn!
Tyler reunites with the rest of the gang and they come up with the brilliant idea of flying an untested alien spacecraft into the heart of the alien mothership now orbiting the colony, and blow it up with something called an
MEV bomb!
The what?
Tyler and the gang fight their way into the heart of the mothership, gunning down every living thing to cross their path with wild, bloodthirsty abandon.
As an instrument of the Inquisition, and no matter the risk to body and soul, I will purge the heart
From top to bottom, and cut out every scrap of darkness I find.
They gun down the alien pilot, apparently the last of its kind. Just as the gang is about to trigger the Emu bomb, the collective alien consciousness of the ship informs them that they're about to blow the ship, the colony, and most of the galaxy out of existence. They could be lying, of course, but the gang believe their tricksy Xenos words and disarm the bomb. Everyone lives happily ever after. Except the aliens. Some levels are large enough to provide the player with multiple routes to reach a certain goal. However, aside from health packs and extra ammo, the game doesn't really reward exploration with other stuff, like collectibles or something. That's kind of a shame, as there's no extra incentive for covering every nook and cranny. There are 10 guns in Shadowgrounds, ranging from the humble pistol with unlimited bullets, to the experimental electric gun, also with unlimited bullets if you get the correct upgrade for it. Oh yeah, Shadowgrounds has weapon upgrades, and you can open the menu for those by hitting enter. Each upgrade costs a varying amount of upgrade points, which drop from enemies. Aside from a few boss sequences, I don't think there are infinitely respawning enemies, which means you probably won't be able to get every upgrade. That means your selections matter, and that's generally a good thing. Let's go back to enemies for a second. You only have a handful of different types present. I'm gonna say there are around 10, as that's the number the developers seem to like. They do have a slight bullet spongy quality to them. A railgun or a rocket launcher should one-shot any alien if you ask me, and I'd rather have quantity over quality here. Most of them are straightforward and have their own roles and quirks. Some are afraid of light, some will hang back and shoot, others will move in erratic patterns, and then there's these guys. They have a shield that makes them immune to damage from the front, and they're the single biggest reason for most of my deaths. Speaking of deaths, you have 5 per level. After that, I assume you'll have to restart the entire level. There's no manual saves in the game, only checkpoints and an autosave between levels. I tried playing the first level on hard difficulty first, and then started a new playthrough on normal, only to discover that the game operates under an old school profile system, meaning that my previous save was now overwritten. I wasn't going to restart the game for a third time, so normal difficulty it is. By default, you have WASD for movement and mouse aim, along with keys to fire, alt fire, toggling your flashlight, and a few other things. You have the ability to dodge in the game as well.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
But it feels mostly like an afterthought. It feels like you have no iframes, and the animation is relatively long and linear, proceeding from start to finish at the same speed. This gives the dodge a floaty feeling when you're locked into the animation, and often ends up making your situation worse because you can't fire while dodging. The sounds are perfectly serviceable, but nothing special. However, the music is another matter entirely. The composer of the game, Ari Pulkkinen, was in fact under no obligation to make some of the music tracks go quite as hard as they do. Hell yeah. You can find Shadowgrounds and its sequel Shadowgrounds Survivor on storefronts like Steam and GOG. The game regularly comes on sale, and with a discount it'll only cost you a few dollars or euros. For that kind of price I can easily give the game my recommendation, if only for the fantastic soundtrack. I had a blast playing these games. Well, most of the time at least. I think what makes the game so Finnish is that they are exactly what they appear to be. After firing up the game, you are blasting aliens within seconds. In fact, the only game here with a more in-depth narrative structure is Shadowgrounds, and even there the story is uncomplicated and linear. There's a surprising amount of alien shooters out there, and I even have yet another similar video in my back pocket for the future. This is the point where I'd ask about your personal favorite alien shooter, but I think I already asked that previously, and it feels weird asking for it a second time. I'm still interested though. I'd love to hear it. In the next video, we'll be talking about paddles. See you then. Have a nice day.